please let me show you 6 current metal albums on glorious vinyl. These records are thrash metal, death metal, and regular good old-fashioned metal. We're going to go through them one by one, and then at the end I'll tell you which is the best, in my opinion. And at the very end I'll also unbox this mystery vinyl album, a thrash record from 2018. Let's do this, and furthermore, let's do this for Satan. Hello there, I'm Jason Arnop, a writer of scary stuff and a former Kerrang journalist. You can read 30 of my favourite interviews I ever did in my book, From the Front Lines of Rock. Now then, let's have a look at this Heathen album, Empire of the Blind. Now Heathen, as thrash fans will know, have been around for quite some time, since their Breaking the Silence album, which I think came out in about 87. And they've basically been releasing albums every 10 years or so since. And so we're quite lucky that we've got one coming out now. This is a very fine album, very much of the crunchy thrash variety. In fact, musically it sounds very much like Exodus, and this is no coincidence because Lee Altus, long-time Heathen guitarist, has been playing in Exodus for as long as I can remember. And I think, you know, a bit of that Gary Holt riffage and guitar tone has rubbed off on Lee, and you can hear it on this album. That's not a bad thing, and David White's vocals also help to make the Heathen style more distinguished. David White has always had a very melodic voice, and it certainly helps with the songwriting. Inside, well, we have the vinyl records, because that's how records are packaged these days. So we'll put the actual vinyl inside, and inside we've got a lovely picture of the band. Yeah, a recommended crunchy thrash album. Probably the year's crunchiest album in the absence of an Exodus record. Now we've got a rather grisly cover here from 6 Feet Under. Look at that. You wouldn't want to see that as a children's tea party, would you? No. This is the band that Chris Barnes formed as a side project originally from Cannibal Corpse, and Cannibal Corpse guitarist Jack Owen has returned to play on this album. And it's very good. I really like it. One of the nice things about 6 Feet Under is they're not speed obsessed at all like so many death metal bands. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it just makes a nice change to have some mid-paced death metal. You don't hear so much of that. Chris Barnes' vocals on this are very unlike his Cannibal Corpse days, in which he was just kind of very guttural and death metal-y. He sounds a bit like you'd imagine a zombie to sing. If a zombie could sing, then he'd sound a bit like that. It's a really interesting kind of monstrous approach, combined with a few really high-pitched, not screams, but kind of like ee, so high-pitched that only a dog could probably hear them as well. The titles include Amputator. You can't beat a song called Amputator. Anything that ends with tor is always great for metal. Zodiac, The Rotting, Death Will Follow, Migraine. Migraine seems a bit mild, really, doesn't it, after some of those other titles? Labyrinth of Insanity and Drink Blood, Get High. Lovely stuff. It's a good album. And also this package includes a poster of the album cover. It's quite a big one too, and a MP3 download code. Nice work, Metal Blade. These first 6 albums, by the way, have all been sent to me for free by record companies, but I certainly haven't been paid to say anything nice about them, and I'm giving you my honest reaction in these reviews. EVILDEAD. EVILDEAD are back. Now, who remembers EVILDEAD from back in the day? EVILDEAD turned up in 1987 with their Annihilation of Civilization album, and then recorded a few more bits and pieces before vanishing. And now they're back with this album, The United States of Anarchy. A brilliant album cover here from Ed Repka, the veteran artist of metal covers. Gotta love that. I'll show you the track listing there as well. Some interesting stuff there. I must admit, this isn't quite the killer comeback that I would have liked. I think it's really good. The Slayer influence is very much still there. It's a good album. I don't know if it's quite the blitzer that we might have liked, but you know, they've only just come back. Maybe the next album, hopefully there will be one, will absolutely rip our faces off. So that's EVILDEAD, The United States of Anarchy. Whoa, Sodom. Yeah, one of the big three of German thrash metal bands. Sodom have been around for almost 40 years, literally. They formed in 1981, and I've always been a huge fan of them. There are a couple of albums in their mid-period that I didn't go for so much at the time, but lately I've become pretty much obsessed with them. I've even watched their two-part documentary, Lords of Depravity, that runs for about 7 hours. Great stuff. Look at this album cover. It's absolutely beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, it's so nice. Now, the last couple of Sodom albums have been good, but maybe there was a sense that they were slightly kind of treading water just a bit on the last one or maybe two albums. This, though, is their finest album since their self-titled record back in 2006. It's a real stormer. There are just some fantastic songs on here, including Sodom and Gomorrah. Amazing that it's taken so long for them to make a song called Sodom and Gomorrah. Glock and Roll, that's a great title and a great song to boot. The Harpooneer is one of the highlights of the album. It's about 7 minutes long, which is quite unusual for Sodom. And it starts off sounding like a Black Sabbath song and then goes into this great kind of mid-tempo riffing. I really recommend The Harpooneer. And there's so many great songs and great titles as well. Oh, there's another Tor song, Occult Perpetrator. Lovely. But the finest song of all is the closing track, Friendly Fire, which is just one of the best songs that Sodom have ever done. It's probably one of the better thrash metal songs I've ever heard in all my years. And there's a video for it on YouTube, so I'll put a link to it downstairs in the video description, where you'll also find handy links to buy these records in this video. Let me show you these filthy reprobates inside the gatefold sleeve, looking as unkempt as ever. Sodom Genesis Xix. Just 2 records left to go before I unbox that mystery album. Vicious Rumours, Celebration Decay. Now, I must admit, I'm not a big fan of this cover. I think this is my least favourite cover from the batch. The colours are a bit washed out and it looks a bit kind of digitally created for my liking. So not that keen on the cover, especially when compared to some of the band's previous album covers. But the album itself is good. As you may know, Vicious Rumours specialise in straight down the line metal, kind of power metal I guess you'd call it, and they've made some amazing records, like Digital Dictator is probably my favourite. There's a song on there called Worlds and Machines, which is an absolute stormer. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure if there's anything quite up to that standard on this record, but I did enjoy it, especially a track called Any Last Words, which was very good. I must confess the singing on this record, for me, let the side down a bit, because it's one of those vocals that's kind of screamy and higher register in a very, very metal kind of way, but perhaps not always achieving the kind of melodies that you want to hear on a metal record like this. Anyway, it's a good record, and here are the band. There are a lot of gatefold records about these days. I'm liking that. Oh, and this particular release is on red vinyl, which is always a pleasure. Lastly, this cover really gives Sodom a run for its money in terms of artwork. I think that's absolutely beautiful. Look at the colours of that. Honestly, I could look at this cover all day if I didn't have other things to be doing. Very nice indeed. Lots of detail on the sides there. Really, really nice. And guess what? The cover might be great, but the album's great too. Yeah, it's really good. It's Benediction have always been really good, kind of just straight down the line death metal, very kind of classic death metal. And this is the band that Barney from Napalm Death, I think, started out in. He was certainly in Benediction before Napalm Death. Dave Ingram is the singer now, and he does a great job. He sounds very clearly influenced by Cam Lee from Massacre, who is also on this record in a guest capacity. Obligatory gatefold lineup shot. It's a really strong album, especially let me see. Yeah, this track at the start of side B, Stormcrow, is fantastic. Yeah, big fan of the old Stormcrow. It's a nice made-up word, that, isn't it? Stormcrow, a bit like thundersnow that we've been experiencing in the UK recently for inexplicably the first time. So yeah, I very much recommend this album. But which album is going to be the best of the bunch? Now, admittedly, you might have gathered this from how enthusiastic I was when I was talking about it, but it is the Sodom album. For me, this is the finest thrash album of 2020. So that's pretty good going. And it's especially good going when you think that the band are almost 40 years old. That's crazy. I absolutely love the fact that Sodom, Creator and Destruction have all been going since the early 80s, and they're still going strong and releasing really strong albums. And this, as I say, is Sodom's finest since the mid-noughties, as much as I hate that way of describing that decade. So, what's the mystery vinyl, you ask me? It might be by a German band, possibly a German band that I have mentioned in this video. He says, possibly stabbing himself through the heart with some skizzers. I have really got back into vinyl this year. There's nothing much more exciting than a load of vinyl turning up at your doorstep. Right, here we go. This has got a lovely cover. You're going to like this. Ready? There we go. It's a Destruction album, but which one is it? Well, I told you the release year earlier. It's Under Attack. Yeah, that's really nice. You can't beat a cover in which the world is basically exploding, can you? That's great. Yeah, it's a good album as well. I think maybe last year's new album, Born to Perish, is probably even better, I think. But this is definitely a strong album, and I really wanted to get it on vinyl. What method do you use to get cellophane off vinyl records? Tell me down in comments, because I use like this pin. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the best method. There's some nice stuff in here. The inner sleeves. It's a double album, and the inner sleeves are very nice with pictures of the band. There's Mike, the absolute riff monster from the band, and Schmier, the frontman, Vava or Vava, don't know how to pronounce that, on drums. And there's a skull, a lovely pentagram type skull. And inside, I'm a big fan of this by the way, in gatefold sleeves, inside you have the lyrics. I think that's a really good use actually of the inside of a gatefold sleeve. And as a special bonus, splatter vinyl, clear splatter vinyl. So happy to have this. Now then, here and here you can see some other rock/metal videos, and here you can see my heroic Patreon patrons. If you enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, don't forget to embrace your obsession.